Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the final broadcast of 2016. And today it's going to be a real goodie. We're talking about some very important things in the world of organizational strategy and development. And we've got some fantastic guests on the panel talking with me today. So thank you very much for joining us and for signing in. I know it's a busy time of year for everybody. So if you're joining us for the first time, or whether you've joined us consistently since we started these, we're really glad to have you here. So thank you for your time. As with always, my name is Katie Roberts, and I'm the host of today's broadcast. This event is being recorded, so if you'd like to rewatch it or share it with some of your business colleagues, feel free to do that. It will be available on the Talmix YouTube channel just after. And also, naturally, if you'd like to join in the conversation on Twitter, make sure you do so under the hashtag TalmixChat. We will try and cover a few questions if time allows, but do feel free to join the conversation over there. So I'm not going to waste too much time. We're going to jump straight in with today's topic. We've got lots to talk about. So according to two recent Ernst & Young surveys, it's the employers as well as the workers who are both driving the creation of this new fluid, contingent and independent workforce. And in the UK, enterprise organizations that were surveyed, that's enterprise organizations with over 100,000 employees, 49% said that they increased their use of so-called gig workers in the last 5 years. And 40% of these organizations said that they expect to increase their use of contingent workers over the next 5 years. So it's a big matter on everybody's desk to talk about. And joining me to talk about those changes and the reasons why you as an organization needs to embrace the use of independent consultants is Brigitte Herren, an independent consultant herself and member of the Talmix community. You've probably seen Brigitte in previous broadcasts. So Brigitte, thank you for joining us again to share your expertise. And we've also got Daniel Callaghan, who is the founder and CEO of Talmix, business entrepreneur himself. Really honored to have you joining the broadcast today as well. Thank you, Daniel, for your time.
No, thank you, Katie, and thank you very much, Brigitte, as well, for joining.
Perfect. So let's, Daniel, I'm going to start with you for a second, if I may. If we look at the gig economy, it's well known that it's growing. But ever since the recession, many people have assumed that employers just want to cut costs. And we're trying to downscale the use of this additional resource. But that's not necessarily the case. So why the sudden urge to expand their own opportunity through the use of independent consultants?
It's a really interesting dynamic. What we have started to very clearly see is that in this war on talent, it really comes down to who can therefore have the most flexible armory. And the seismic shift in the client's mind is that contingent talent is not there to be a stopgap or to be an additional piece of bandwidth when you have a project to solve, but actually as a means of getting the best work delivered by the best consultants or best professionals when you need it, can be a real tool in your strategic armory. We are seeing that, in fact, this change is also being driven very much by the consultants themselves. Because actually now, since the recession, companies, consultants rather, have started to realize is that a career is no longer a career for life, and are therefore opting to start earlier in building a more autonomous and self-driven career. So we're seeing this large brain drain come out of the leading corporates and organizations, and therefore companies having to find a way to fill this existing talent gap in the most effective and efficient manner possible.
That's interesting.
The second part.
Oh, sorry. Go
ahead. No, please, up to you.
No, I was just going to say, Brigitte, obviously we live in this on-demand environment where we expect what we need when we need it. How does this translate to the independent consulting world? And can it keep up to constantly evolving client needs and industry?
I think we see an interesting dynamic here. On the one hand, a client, when he has a sudden need, and I can absolutely confirm this from my prior work in a big investment bank, seeing sudden needs being filled via the consulting market due my experience now as an independent consultant. You have the dynamic that the client wants somebody with the skill set that he needs at this point of time. He wants very little risk. So the main question really, I believe, that the client is asking when he hires a consultant is, has he or she been there and done it? So I think due to your question, you get hired for your expertise that is in the past, yet in this fluid and fast developing environment, you need to also pay closely attention that you don't get outdated. I do believe that life as an independent consultant gives me more choice today than I had in my old world where I worked for one company. And this is that I have a choice too. Not only does the client have a choice, when he has a need, he can go to Talmix and he gets some high-profile individuals, he gets the CVs to choose from, but I can also choose, do I want to apply to which opportunity? So to give an example, in my current role, it was important to me that I have a change of industry because I wanted to develop. And it also was important to me to work in digitalization because I do think this is one mega trend that is affecting everything that I'm going to do in the future as a consultant. And Talmix gave me the opportunity to do both. So I think it's been a nice win-win for my client and for myself.
And that's interesting. And I mean, it would be interesting to look at it from a client perspective as well. Daniel, did you have anything to add to what Brigitte's thoughts are, or perhaps some experience of what you hear from the client's perception about this on-demand environment?
Yeah, I think Brigitte raised two really interesting points. One is, obviously, it's around having been there and done that. And the fact is that now there are more highly skilled professionals ever than before choosing to interact and work in this fashion. You know, Talmix alone has 27,000 of the world's highest pre-screened vetted independent consultants, which means a client can get exactly who they want when they need it. The second point is really the platform itself. And from a client perspective, the ease of use about being able to identify and find a solution is really important to, you know, the likelihood that they will use an independent consultant. You know, what we've taken great care of as a business to really develop is a platform that very systematically and efficiently connects what was once a fragmented supply of the best consultants in the market in a centralized and highly organized and easy to use platform that they can instantly find the best person on demand. And it's really that technology driver that has started to help clients increase their use of independent consultants as well.
So if we just stay with you for a moment as well, aside from this cost control and filling temporary gaps that we see, you know, so common in the on-demand economy, today's employers report using short-term contingent workers for strategic business reasons, particularly to leverage skills and capabilities that may not be part of the core workforce. So how does independent consulting allow itself to serve client requirements, particularly and regardless of level and complexity?
Yeah, so there are three real advantages that, from a client perspective, being able to use and engage independent consultants on demand really benefits. Firstly, is this hyper specialization. You know, because Talmix, for example, is the 9th largest consultancy in the world by choice of consultants. It means that the client is able to really drill down and dig exactly into the skill set that they need and find someone who has been there and done the exact task before. So zero execution risk and zero learning curve. Secondly, because of the speed of the platform itself, it means that the client can be very agile. It takes 3 days on average to get a curated shortlist back for a project if you're a client, which means that your start point from being able to realize when there's a problem with or when there's a project that needs to be delivered, so when you can get that project begun and already started, you know, has been greatly reduced, which obviously in turn increases your responsiveness to the market. That's absolutely relevant. I'm just getting a bit of feedback. Sorry, apologies there.
So Brigitte, if we just switch to you, following on from what Daniel has just mentioned, how do you, as an independent consultant, ensure that you are able to deliver what the client needs, regardless of this level of complexity of the project?
So we started from that somebody hires you because you've been there and done it, and hopefully that is the starting point. Nevertheless, projects are, of course, requiring quite a lot of subject matter expertise and that they develop at a quick speed. And I think that, of course, it is a challenge being an independent consultant, that you're not part of a formal knowledge network that you may go back to. But I also believe that one core skill is that you bring in as a consultant, you actually know how to quickly get your hands dirty and develop skills on the go, and that you learn how to solve problems and go into the unknown. This being said, I think this idea of belonging to a knowledge network is very important. And as an independent consultant, one key skill set is to tie into your own network of independent consultants. Of course, being very careful to observe non-disclosure agreements. I think that doesn't need any saying. But on the other side, also quickly build up this knowledge network on the client side. I believe it may be a little easier to be an independent consultant if you have a little bit more experience under your belt, because you definitely go in there as a consultant and sometimes a manager at interim. This being said, I don't regard it as a disadvantage today. You just need to have a little bit of a different skill set and strategy to get it done.
And I like what you said about, developing your skills on the go as well. I suppose, people forget the consultants bring this wealth of knowledge and expertise, but there will always be a new client. There'll always be a new project with new complexities, and there'll always be a new opportunity to learn and develop skills specific to that project. And I think that's the beauty of someone who has been there and done that, who's able to adjust, pick up, learn, act, pick up, learn and act, which is obviously what you referred to. So Daniel, if I come to you for a second, I want to talk about a lean business and leaner approach. Many reports speak about businesses doing things the Toyota way, a new leaner way of working. So how does the adoption of an independent consulting workforce contribute to this lean way of doing business?
Obviously, the real concept of lean means trying to eliminate wastage or inefficiencies. The way that actually most directly applies to an on-demand talent market such as Talmix is most directly applicable or explained through the effect it can have on a fixed cost base. We can certainly come to the questions around increased productivity and getting more done in a more expert fashion. But actually, what we increasingly see customer or clients come to us and say now is that we know we are oversupplied. We have overcapacity within our organization. What we would really like to do is have this global subbench of the best and the brightest independent professionals that we can draw on anytime we need, anywhere in the world. Now, if we can take a moment and just think about actually what becomes of a full-time employee. The cost of a full-time employee is not their base salary. It is actually worked out to be 161% of whatever their base salary is. Talmix as a model lets staff therefore eliminate that and only bring on the extra additional cost when they really need it to deliver whatever specific projects they need. And in a professional services industry, actually what a recent report by McKinsey have shown is that cost percentage can reduce by around 60 basis points. Your overall, that flexibility can reduce by an overall, fixed cost base by around 60 basis points, just through being able to hire less, not have so many people consistently on the payroll, and being able to supplement a core team with the expertise you need when you need it. And I think that really goes to the heart of what is meant by a leaner way or a Toyota way.
Yeah, and that is where the on-demand economy fits so beautifully with that. It's you use what you need when you need it. And that's why a workforce like what Talmix offers, who is ready to do the job, is so beneficial. It's not that you don't have to have this lengthy onboarding process or commitment, long-term commitment. You use what you need when you need it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to realize the average hiring time in the UK is around 49 days. The average time to get a project started on Talmix can be within 4 days. Now, if you're working in a highly competitive environment, the ability to get your project started today by a subject matter expert and save 45 days, perhaps pay a little bit more on the day rate than you would do on a fixed term salary, but ultimately gain that much more speed and that much more momentum because there's zero learning curve and direct application of real world knowledge, is invaluable in such a competitive environment.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can understand why organizations who are already using the Talmix model and using Talmix have bought into it and are recurringly using it, and restructuring strategy around this kind of way of working. So Brigitte, your thoughts on this leaner approach as an independent consultant? How do you work within this environment?
I mean, one key point that we have heard is the lower transaction costs. And we've also heard that Talmix has 27,000 consultants on the bench. What strikes me here is that actually some roles are nearly impossible to fill for some smaller organizations because they don't have the clout and the brand to attract the right talent. However, as an independent consultant, they may be a very interesting proposition in a project setting, and that's what the client needs. They would not find this individual or wouldn't be able to attract it. However, if they can tap into a Talmix solution, they will have this person, as we've heard, within 4 days. And it is pretty much the situation that at the client that I work with that I have found. They needed to fill somebody at a very quick notice. They knew that it would take them a long time to hire this person, and I was on site within a week's time. So yes, it definitely lowers the transaction costs and makes it for a much leaner, swifter, and also a win-win solution.
Yeah, and if we just stay with you for a sec, Brigitte, obviously this leaner, swifter action doesn't come without other commitments, and I'm thinking particularly around the transparency of doing business together and that level of trust that you build up between consultant and organization. So as an independent consultant, a lot of what you do relies on the sense of trust. Organizations who choose to use your services trust that you will complement their organization and that the services you provide will be in their best interest. So how important is it for you to ensure transparency with those that you work with in order to build this trust?
It is very important, and what I find interesting is that the hiring process, in my experience, looks a little different than if I would come in with a big consulting brand. So if I think of my prior life, the clients, in terms of trust and transparency, they bought the brand of the firm and then trusted that the team who came in would do the job. There maybe was a beauty competition or something, but you didn't get screened as an individual. If you come in as an independent consultant, the client has the good right and should do so to carry out interviews. And then I think in the interview it is of personal interest to be very transparent to see if there's a fit. But I would also think that every independent consultant is not only there for himself or herself, but also as somebody who represents Talmix, and as good professional behavior, we want to make sure that the client sees what he buys and then afterwards also gets what has been promised.
Beautiful, yeah. You have such a way with words, Brigitte. You really speak from the heart. It's wonderful. Daniel, I just want to come to you for a second. If we talk about, in the same survey that I mentioned at the start of the broadcast, it was shown that 31% of organizations who would like to use a more contingent workforce are held back because of antiquated vendor or supplier management systems or fragmented governance models, things like that. So what's your advice to organizations who want to evolve but don't quite know how to or don't know where to start?
I mean, the simple and somewhat glib answer would be certainly to get in touch with Talmix. We'd love to help them on that journey. The reality is, and the broader situation of the market actually is that there's still a certain lack of awareness by the other 69% who haven't thought about moving into this, and therefore as a topic around talent management and human capital strategy and strategic planning, it's only now really just coming to the forefront. So one of the great things around this topic is that there is now this wealth of information and clear proven business cases that show that a model, a forward-thinking business that uses a leaner, on-demand, flexible talent base just gains significantly from an operational perspective. And they can really build a very solid business case that does not just talk about cost, but actually how HR and procurement can add value back into the organization through thinking and adopting this way of business.
Yeah, and I'm sure, you know, the team at Talmix could also account for the fact that we work with clients on all different levels, whether you are a decision maker who is looking to change business strategy, or whether you are someone looking to influence change. You know, we can work with you on whatever level you're at to help embrace this new style of working, whether it's just, you know, departmentally or within your function or as an organization as a whole. So you know, I think that's the beauty of what Talmix does, and the types of clients we work with, that you know, we are able to meet you where you are, you know, where your needs are.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from our side as an organization, we very much think of it as a partnership. We don't work on a project by project basis, and then anyone looking to engage with a vendor of on-demand talent should very much perceive it as such as well. I mean, what you ultimately want to do is this, again, becomes a strategic weapon in your arsenal, not just about getting work delivered faster or cheaper, but actually a new way of building out a global talent supply for exactly, you know, to help you take it to the next generation. Because even if it's not fully independent, you know, you need to start working out how your next generation of workers, or the millennials, who are already believing in a more flexible part-time basis, and how you can start to incorporate those into your organization. And in that case, we provide a wonderful set of examples around exactly what best practice should be.
Yeah, absolutely. So Brigitte, we have just a few minutes left before the broadcast comes to close. From an independent consultant's point of view, what would be your final thoughts to organizations who are looking to use more independent consultants within their business?
So my answer is a little influenced not only through my life as an independent consultant, but in my prior role, I was advising on engaging consultants for a global investment bank. And I think one of the barriers that I could see is that people were risk averse in a way that they wanted to have a certain name of a company there. And then afterwards they complained that they didn't get the people they expected to see, or they didn't get the problem solved in a way they wanted to. I would encourage organizations, especially when they need small teams or individuals, to actually buy the people and not buy a brand and then not really know what they're getting. So taking responsibility in getting to know candidates and actually buying the talent in a person. So that's one thing, owning the individuals that are coming in, managing them, making sure that they have a tight governance. On the other side, I would also put in the argument that there are no opportunity costs to trying a solution out. As I understand, Daniel, you will get offered a solution, CVs, you partner with these organizations. There is a very low opportunity cost, time you spend to evaluate, you're not forced to buy. And why not try it out and maybe try another solution at the side? It's always good to have choice. And I would not be surprised if the price-performance relation of a network like Talmix would be very beneficial indeed. So my tip would be just take ownership, try out, make sure you get the best solution, and give something that is evolving and that is becoming an industry trend. Give that a chance, because it could become a competitive disadvantage not to know how to work with this channel, as Daniel has just pointed out.
Thank you, Brigitte. And Daniel, final thoughts from you as we draw this to a close. How is Talmix actively looking to develop a new way of working, and why should organizations adopt this strategy?
So I'll take the first part of that question. For us, it really becomes around partnership. It is not, you know, we have clients who are still clients from when the business was very first founded in 2011. And that long-term relationship view has been as a central ethos behind every way that we've approached each of our engagements, not both on the client side, but also very much on the consultant side too. You know, we continue to try and listen and hear exactly what both sides of the marketplace are looking for and incorporate that into every way that we behave and conduct ourselves on a daily basis. For organizations, you know, there is very little switching costs, but certainly you should actually just look around your organization now. You'll find either contractors or interim businesses or interim hires already being quite commonplace. And actually what you're doing through adopting a more on-demand model is just taking that to this next evolution. It's about how do you become even shorter or more responsive to the market and actually just open up the talent pool to beyond your own black book. And we'd love to be their partner on that journey.
Wonderful. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Brigitte, for both being part of this. Our broadcast has come to a close. Unfortunately, we could have probably carried on for another half an hour. But thank you both very much for your time. I know you're busy people, so appreciate your knowledge and your views on this. Just for our viewers, just so that you know, this is the last broadcast for the year, but we are back with a wonderful, wonderful calendar of broadcasts early in 2017. We kick them off in January. So be sure to keep an eye on your inbox and on Talmix's social media. We'll make sure we put all the details on there. But there's nothing more left for me to say at this point other than wish you a wonderful festive season ahead. Safe travels if you're traveling, and we look forward to having you join us again in the new year, bright and early and ready to change the way that your organization works and the way that you embrace independent consultants as part of your growth strategy. Thank you very much for joining, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.